tardiness, given that we're in this room, was very hot. So good evening. Glendolyn Thames, Council President and Co-Chair of Operations Management and Budget and Government Accountability Committee. Here with me, I have my committee member and Majority Leader James Sanchez, and to my left, I have Assistant Majority Leader John Gale, who is visiting us today, or joining us on the committee meeting. So we have a few items. We have quite a few items on the schedule. So let's jump right in. Number one is communication from Mayor Bronin with a company resolution that would transfer funding within the fiscal year 2019 budget in order to support planned capital expenditures in the fiscal year 2020 budget as previously approved by the City Council and the Municipal Accountability Review Board. Do we have anyone from the administration? I see Jeff from OMB. Please come forward.
Oh, we have mics now. He can speak.
Oh, you can. I didn't know what.
Is it on? Is it test? Okay. Oh. Okay. So here, a table. What do you guys? Here? Sure. Perfect. Perfect. Thank you. Good evening. My name is Jeff Hallen. I serve as the Assistant Director of Budget for Office Management and Budget, and what is before this committee is a resolution requesting that fiscal year 2019 general fund favorability be moved to fund fiscal year 2020 CIP projects. As Council is aware, we are currently on a pay-as-you-go basis for any of our capital projects. So this general fund favorability would be funding existing projects that have already been approved for the CIP. The fiscal year 19 favorability, the $15 million, it is primarily coming from payroll costs avoided across the organization, which has brought benefits costs lower than budget, and also salary costs. Any questions that you may have on it?
I'll open it up. Any questions?
So, just so I'm clear, this means, one way of looking at this is to say that at the end of the last fiscal year, which just ended June 30th, we had a surplus of $15 million. Is that correct?
Correct. That much funding is available, correct.
And this does not take the place of the $12 million in CIP funds that we included in the 2020 budget.
No.
So this is in addition to that $12 million and could be used now to fund other projects that were in the CIP budget already?
No, and Councilman, I guess the one thing that I'm not sure on that is that this funding was from 19, was planned to fund 20 projects. So it is not for anything in addition. These are resources to fund existing council-approved projects.
That's what I meant, existing.
Yes.
Existing council-approved projects that did not previously have funding.
Yes, they need this to be funded.
And
yes.
how, is this strictly administration discretion now as to which of these projects gets funded?
It goes according to the CI plan that was approved by council. So whatever the plan was for what projects in what year, this is simply bringing the resources to fund what was put forward in the CIP plan and what council approved for the CIP plan. It's paying for it.
Last question.
Sure.
There's no requirement that we transfer this. This is an administration request.
I would say that there is not, I'll answer that this way. If it doesn't happen, the projects don't have funding.
Understood. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So just to reiterate that point, as you all know, when we went into the new partnership with the state, with the Municipal Accountability Review Board, and as part of our restructuring of our budget, we went towards this pay-as-you-go model, absent our ability to bond, if you will. So previously, we bonded for a lot of the capital projects, and now, given our inability, to some extent, to bond, we committed to paying for capital improvement projects out of the general fund budget and working within what we have. And so, based off the budget that we adopted this year, along with the capital improvement budget that plan that we adopted, this is essentially saying, due to the savings that we incurred due to payroll, benefits, wages, that we're now shifting those dollars to pay for those capital improvements.
Does the Council President know, does the MARB, the approved plan with the MARB require that we move the money in this fashion? Or put it another way, would the MARB be critical if we didn't do this?
I think it will be alarming because there was, what we adopted a budget that was in line with this plan.
Okay, thank you.
Majority Leader? No. Okay, can I get a motion?
Motion to send the council favorably.
Can I get a second? Motion has been made and properly seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Nays? Abstentions? The ayes have it. The motion carries favorably to the next council meeting. Thank you. Okay, next we have communication from Mayor Broning with the company resolution approving the transfer of $404,513 of outstanding delinquent personal property taxes from 2006 to 2016 grand list to suspend the tax book. The city can still make efforts to collect these taxes. However, transferring this amount will improve our accounting processes. I see our Mr. Phillips here. No, you're not here. This is not right. Please.
I can't add an awful lot to the mayor's transmission. I can say this is an annual thing. And in this particular year, between the Tax Collectors Collection Agency and my shop, we got rid of as much dead wood as we could. That is like these zombie companies that we've had on our list for a long time. We didn't know they were gone. We made a concerted effort. And so the bulk of these are in like 12, 13, and 14 grand list years. That is because I can't remove them past, well, now I can't remove 2015 either because the deadline for that was July. But this is a way to clean up the receivables so that we're not overstating. We have a pretty good idea that these folks were not going to collect these taxes.
Right, so this is, we periodically do this and see these from time to time, at least on an annual basis, and it's more of a accounting function.
Right.
On a technical function, if you will, to ensure that we're accurately reflecting what our receivables are and not overinflating them. And so when you have, records on the books such as these that we've attempted to collect over and over and are not gaining any traction on them, then from an accounting gaps perspective, like, it's best that we take them off of our official record, but not withstanding our ability to continue to collect them if needed. And there's statutory guidelines too that, of what limits that we can continue to go after people, because after a certain period of
15
time,
years,
15
they're
years,
gone.
right, then it's basically just a loss.
Right.
We can no longer go after them, but I know we see this year over year, and it's a normal accounting function. Any questions?
Yes, I have a question. So, these taxes, the 404,005, are these from the properties themselves, or is this from a tax lien sale?
This is business personal property.
Personal property?
Yeah, like furniture, fixtures,
Okay,
computer
so-
equipment.
So basically from small businesses or, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And how long, okay, so this is 2006 to 2016, so that means we're in 19, so we have only 2 more years to try to collect some of this money.
Yeah, you'll know, there's not many, there's only a handful of 2006, and there's precisely one from 2016. Because like 2006 has been in play for suspense book candidacy for years. So these are a few that got by. There's not many of them. When you get up to 11, 12, 13, 14, that's where the bulk of them are in this particular batch. And those, and some of those I know, we know they were gone as of a particular date, but they have earlier ones that are not on this list that are in fact collectible. They were here, and I presume that the collection agency's on them.
So are we in a position now where this won't happen again?
No.
No?
You can't. Personal property is very difficult. It's a steadily moving tide. People come in, people go out. People sell an existing business without our knowledge. Then it stays in the old guy's name, and you can't pursue the old guy. There's just, it's a fraught process.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
My question doesn't have to do with the personal property taxes, but just taxes in general. Is there a state or a municipal law that would prevent a delinquent on the highest bracket of tax delinquency from being able to make campaign contributions at the municipal level?
I do not know the answer to that, Councilwoman.
Okay.
I doubt it, but I don't know.
All right, thank you.
So I just want to make sure I understood your question. So are you saying if someone is delinquent on taxes? So on the highest,
Culprit of owing taxes to the city.
right, would,
Like starting at 400,000, bumping all the way.
right. Is there any municipal or state law that prevents them from donating to a campaign? At the municipal level? Yeah, I can strongly say I really don't think so. But it's worth research, but I really don't think there's anything that prohibits that currently on the books, if you will. Any other questions?
I'd like to make a motion, send it to council favorably.
Can I get a second? Motion has been made and seconded. All in favor? Nays? Abstentions? The ayes have it. The motion carries favorably to the next council meeting. Thank you,
Thank you,
Mr. Phillips.
folks.
Okay, moving on to item number 3, an ordinance making general fund appropriations to reflect revised project costs relative to public improvements in the Martin Luther King School Project Number 064-0310, RNV.
Good afternoon, Frank Delaripa, City Engineer. I'm here to inform you, City Council, that the Martin Luther King project is in need of a $40,000 increase in funds. The project consists of alterations of 140,000 square feet in order to relocate a PK-5 magnet program in a neighborhood middle school for grades 6 through 8. Comprehensive alterations throughout the facility for code compliance, accessibility requirements, technology, and replacement of obsolete mechanical systems and lighting fixtures will be done. Ventilation and sprinkler systems will be added. Back in 2016, the school Office of School Construction allocated $68 million, and when the final numbers came in, they needed an additional $40 million, and a letter to the superintendent from the director of school construction. I have a letter here requesting or indicating that the state will include an additional $40 million to bring the total to $108 million for the MLK school, which is reimbursable. Any questions on the increase?
I guess I just want to make sure that I'm clear, and for the record, that what is the total cost to the city going to be? Because clearly, you know, it's $108 million total project, if you will, and this is representing a $40 million increase that you're now asking to then take it up to the 108, because obviously the project scope has changed over the years from when we first originally did designs
Correct.
to now, right? So totally understand that and been a part of that. I guess, given that the state has adopted approval or resolution for the 95% reimbursement, just, I think it would be helpful to understand what will be at the end of the day, what will be the cost from the city contributing to the project after all the reimbursements and everything. What is that cost that we're anticipating?
Walter, 5% of 108 is 5% of 108 million.
So is it 5% of the 108? That's the
I
math?
wanted to do the math real quick. It's
So
5
five-
million, a little over 5
5
million.
million, okay, so that's the math. That's what we are all in agreement, that the cities, at the end of the day, based off of the current approvals with the state and the 95% reimbursement rate, we're at about $5 million from the city's contribution.
That's correct.
To this project. Got it.
And I would just like to understand the difference between the original 68 million and the current price tag of 108 million. Do I understand that this is, the original 68 was an estimated cost, and that when the bids came in and the scope of the work and all the unforeseen issues came to light, that this is not a function of cost overruns at this point?
No.
This is just the current
Real
cost for this
cost.
project.
Yeah, I think they based it off what Fox, which was built about the same time. That's where that 68 came from. And that's, I wasn't here, but how many years ago was that project? So you look at cost escalation and just, you know, some of the changes in environmental regulations. This is a real number, the 108.
Thank you.
Okay. Can I get a motion? So moved. Motion has been made, properly seconded. All in favor for a favorable recommendation?
Thank you.
Nays? Abstentions? The ayes have it. The motion carries favorably to the next council meeting.
Thank you.
Okay, so with that, we've moved quite swiftly through our agenda. There are about Okay, we have quite a few items, but a lot of these items are resolutions and/or ordinances by council members that are not necessarily here to talk about their particular proposals. So from 4 through 8.
I'd like to make a motion to postpone item number 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, and 11.
Can I get a second? Motion has been made and seconded to postpone 4 through 8, 9 to 10, and 11. No, 10, 11, 12.
10 and 11.
Just 10 and 11, I'm sorry. All in favor?
Aye.
Nays? Abstentions? The ayes have it. The motion carries to postpone those items. So item number 9 is then left on the agenda. Correct?
Yes.
And that was,
This is a communication from myself requesting that the MIRA, Material Innovation and Recycling Authority, credit the Hartford Department of Public Works, DPW, the cost for the average per ton transportation costs for municipal solid waste delivered to the MIRA facility in the Hartford South Metals as applied to all municipal solid waste delivered there from within the city of Hartford, commencing July 1st of this year. And I'm hoping that our director, Walter Vaselka, has some info on this. I'm not sure if you read this resolution, and I'm not sure if you understand, but what I'm looking for is that we calculate the tonnage that we deliver to MIRA from DPW and get the credit for that delivery. Rather than paying per ton, we should get credited per ton.
All right, Walter Vaselka, Director of Public Works. We've discussed this as Public Works staff and weren't quite sure what your intent is. I understand it's going to be very hard to calculate what is an average transportation cost because we're collecting from all over the city, 5 days a week, so that average cost is going to be hard to justify that is a real number. I mean, we can come up with some numbers on what it is, but it is going to be subject to a lot of questioning, potentially.
I'm sure it is. So my question then, as in your conversations, in your meetings, I'm hoping that it's being received favorably. I mean, you've worked, you came from Bristol. Obviously, I think in our conversation, you was in charge of the facility over there, similar to what we have here, as far as the MIRA.
Correct. I was in Bristol, and we had Covanta Bristol in the city. The city of Bristol actually went at it in a different fashion, similar to what Hartford did in the past, in that we had a host fee, and we actually had 3 different versions of the host fee on that, in that we had an amount that we were given for tonnage coming in. We also had an amount that we were given for tonnage that was trucked out of the city if the plant went down. And then there were certain wastes that we had a separate agreement that we negotiated for, because Covanta at the time was looking at bringing in some special waste as categorized by deep, and we had a separate agreement for that. But that was more on a host fee basis, which was a little easier to calculate, but it was on tonnage coming into the facility from all the other communities.
So right now, is my understanding that we're averaging 80,000 tons, of which 30% or 30,000 tons is our commercial waste.
Correct.
The difference would be residential waste.
Correct.
So I'd like to base that average on both or all 3. It could be the total average. I know it's not specific because it could be lower or higher at times, but at least we know what the average is will be the 80,000 tons. And I like to come up with some figures just to give it a base. And I believe that as far as the hose fee, that's another conversation. It's a separate negotiation, if you would. So, you know, as we know, Mira hasn't been as transparent as it should be. I don't feel that they're willing to negotiate a reasonable hose fee at the moment. So with that aside, I'd like to say that I am pushing for this to be sent to council favorably. I'm not making a motion yet, but I think this is important that they take the city of Hartford and our leadership serious and take our residents and their health serious. But thank you for your input.
Understanding we can calculate some numbers and get back to you before your next meeting.
Sure, and we could probably take that information and make a friendly amendment to the resolution.
Okay, sir.
Yeah, I mean, I would suggest that we should be informed by, if they're able to do that analysis and give us some, you know, concrete numbers, that should inform our decision on how we move this forward, because I'm not clear on what, like, I understand what you're trying to accomplish, but I'm not clear on understanding what,
What's the ask?
yeah, what's the ask
So the
and what
ask
does
is
that,
this. So
the
if Hartford-
bottom line to Hartford, I guess.
Right, so what's going on is Hartford, you have your surrounding towns, and they contract with Mira. Mira collects their trash. They don't collect our trash. We deliver our own trash, so why should we be paying for the delivery cost to Mira? And part of it is the host fee, which is not the host fee itself, but part of the negotiation.
So basically, you're suggesting that we're credited for our own City of Hartford transportation costs, because we transport our own trash versus other towns. So Walter's shaking his head.
Just as a point of correction, other communities that bring the waste into the Mira facility are really paying two different, they're either collecting it internally, as Hartford does, or they're actually paying two fees. They're actually paying a hauler to either collect and/or transport, and the tipping fee. So Mira itself doesn't collect waste. The Mira organization. They receive the waste delivered to their facility.
Right.
Just as a point of clarification.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, through the chair. So seeing as the per tonnage costs have gone up, so we used to be 72, now it's jumped up to almost near 100. Is there, and I recognize that, you know, we have the bulky waste task force, but has there been a plan through DPW and maybe alongside with the bulky waste task force group to really drive down our overall waste that we have for the city? So I know in other cities and other municipalities, for example, they've been doing a lot of outreach and focus on diverting waste, so they'll have composting, for example, in West Hartford schools, or they'll offer bigger incentives for recycling. And so has that been looked at?
The answer is yes, it has been looked at. Hartford has some different challenges than some of the other communities that are more suburban because of the density of multifamily, but it has been looked at. We have some active composting, and we still, through the sustainability group, offer it to residents, and there'll be some more education going out and some potentially a new offer shortly. In terms of recycling, that's actually cooled a bit only because the recycling market right now is very bad, and communities are actually under new contracts paying more to process recycling than waste, and it's, some communities on a national level have actually stopped collecting recyclables. And so that's, you know, for us, we have another full year under that contract, and then we're going to end up looking at some things over the next year. But we are looking at that. We are aware and looking at what's going on in the market, as well as what we can do to reduce the cost for the city of Hartford.
Okay.
One question on the transfer stations. Are they Mira vehicles that transport from the transfer stations to the?
No, the city vehicles transport from the transfer station. We contract with a hauler for some of the larger bulky waste that goes separately.
So for those towns that, like, I don't know, is there a transfer station, pick a town, like Torrington or something?
Oh, I'm sorry, you mean the city's transfer station?
No. I'm talking about for Mira's 68 towns, or
Right.
however many towns there are that bring their trash to Mira, our facility in Hartford. My understanding, clearly correct me on all this, but my understanding is there are several sort of outposts where towns outside of Hartford bring their trash to a collection point, or I use the word a transfer facility, where it's then, say 5 towns are collected, and then all of those 5 towns is transferred together down to Mira. Do I have that right?
That is correct in some circumstances, not all communities. Many communities direct deliver to Mira.
So the only question I had was who's paying for the hauling from those transfer stations?
All those communities actually are doing that under an agreement of either directly with the hauler or whoever's operating that transfer station.
Thank you.
I guess that's where my confusion is. I'm trying to understand what, you know, with this, you know, thought of Mira crediting the city for our transportation cost per ton, like, what, is that baked into the cost now that we already pay? And if not, like, what is that, how does that impact our bottom line? I guess that's the analysis that I would, like, want to see prior to proceeding, if you will.
Well, right now, our hauling is part of our operating budget. We have staff, we have our equipment, we have our vehicles and fuel costs. So our cost to haul is part of my public
Right, and we're
works.
hauling our own trash to Mira.
Correct, but it's part of my public works operating
Right.
budget. It's not a separate item in that. It's made up of several things. I have a labor cost, I have a fuel cost, I have a capital cost of the vehicles.
And so what I'm hearing from you too, that's how other towns are handling, that's basically the same concept that other towns have as well.
Yes, either they're paying it out of their operating budget and hauling themselves, or paying it as a line item under contract with a commercial firm.
Right, because the way this is written, and again, I could be wrong, it's assuming that they do not. So that's where, again, that's where my
So I think
confusion.
one of the confusion is, for example, well, let's just take a step back here. The tipping fee to bring trash to Mira is the same whether it's Hartford, West Hartford, or Torrington. Am I correct on that?
The tipping fee for all of the Mira member towns is the same.
Right.
The tipping fee for contract towns, depending on their contract with Mira, is potentially the same or more.
Right. And part of the fee includes transportation.
No. They pay a tipping fee. The tipping fee is simply the fee to operate the Mira facility. They're paying for their transportation separately to another contractor.
So then, what is the tipping fee? What's the tipping fee covering besides the receiving?
The tipping, again, I'm not on the Mira board, so I can't tell you specifically, but the tipping fee is the cost to operate the Mira facility, maintain a cash reserve for future capital projects, and the direct cost of the facility.
All right, can you give us the figures for the next meeting? Because I'm confused, because at one point, the last contract, if I recall right, we were overcharged by $12 a ton. And that has something to do with the transportation cost, unless the formula has changed.
No, the Mira changed their rates this year. Part of it was a cost of living adjustment that's under the contract, but there also was, because of the outage at the plant and the extensive renovation or work that they had to do, the Mira board imposed an additional cost on solid waste this year. So there was actually a two-tiered jump in our tipping fee this year, but it was really the plant repairs from it being down last fall and winter, plus a cost of living.
Okay, so just to go back, so this resolution is really not being focused on the tipping fee anyways. What it's focusing is that the city of Hartford, being the host town, the host city for the rest of the community, for the region, that this be a part of the negotiations besides the host fee. So this would be another type of host fee, let's say, which would be the credit. I'm looking for the credit to get credit towards the tip. Instead of paying a tipping fee, we get credit besides getting a host fee for being a host town.
All right, sir, and we'll calculate and give you some numbers for your next meeting.
Okay, thank you. So I make a motion that we postpone this to the next meeting.
Motion has been made and seconded to postpone the item to the next meeting. All in favor?
Aye.
Nays, abstentions. The ayes have it. The item has been postponed, and we look forward to getting some numbers. Walter, thank you for being here. That was helpful, although I think it still left some of us confused. But helpful nonetheless. Thank you. So with that, I think that concludes our meeting agenda, as the other items were postponed to our next meeting. So with that, I move to adjourn, and we have public hearing at 7 o'clock momentarily. Thank you.